Hello, everyone. We are here for Mother's Day weekend, so I hope you guys are enjoying your mothers. Today's conversation is definitely dedicated to mother, just in general. And there are just a few things that I wanted to talk about because I was able to kind of go away for a little while, get off the grid for a little while, and just immerse myself in nature and peace and quiet. And you sort of realize just the amount of self-realization that comes from just being in a position to being in an environment that allows you to really listen to yourself and really confront whatever is necessary to get you moving forward. So I was definitely grateful just for just having those few days to myself. And, again, there's always revelation and it's always on time, regardless. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, shadows, but just in a different light, because when we talk about shadow work or shadows or shadowy aspects of self, and we've had these conversations in the past as well, one misconception, at least from my perspective, is looking at the shadow selves, and I would say selves, not even self, because there's a lag of shadows, and I'm going to explain that a little bit later in the video. But when we look at our shadowy aspects of self, what tends to be the kind of like the default sight or insight when looking into shadows is opposition. When we think of shadow self, we think about opposition, or we villainize the shadow. And when we do that, where there's kind of like there's just this feedback, or you're kind of doing a disservice to yourself, because when we're looking at shadows and what shadows really are, shadows are kind of lagged in a sense where when we're looking at shadows as opposition, we're looking at opposite. And the thing is, depending on how the light is hitting you, right? When you're moving your arm, let's say I'm moving my arm this way and the light is hitting me at a certain angle and I'm able to see my shadow, right? My shadow is actually moving the same way. My shadow is not in opposition to me. So in seeing that and recognizing that shadow is actually moving in the same direction as the aspect of you that is presented in the light or the illusion, then you realize that there's this there's some kind of uniting, right, in movement. Now, the thing with that, and we can get very literal in that sense, but I wanted to bring that up because when we think about energies and we think about cycles, especially because we are living in a very cyclical universe, cyclical reality, a reality that operates off of cycles. And it's very important to keep track of these cycles, because then you're able to know, or you're able to just move at a certain time to make sure that you're not caught up in crossfires, shadowy crossfires. And I'm going to explain what that is. So I actually wrote something down, and you'll see this reflected in certain shows. One of the most obvious movies in reference to all of this is the movie Us, right? So there are like these doppelgangers that are coming into the reality and that are trying to kill and replace. And that's what this storyline has told us. And the thing about that is, like any experience, and I'm trying to find a way to really simplify this conversation without going too off track or getting off track, but shadows, in a sense of, let's talk about shadows in a metaphysical sense, right? So the shadow parts of ourselves are aspects of ourselves that are holding on to baggage or energies, frequencies, experiences, emotions, and so on, that are not, or that are hidden, or that are not seen, or not really brought out into the light. And this is not necessarily a bad thing, right? This is more so, it's a space holder for things that are unseen and for things that are hidden. Now, it's good to have these pockets of frequencies. It's good to have these pockets of self that is able to hold on to energies and emotions and so on, that doesn't need to be necessarily presented or projected into the light. Now, the thing is, when there's a healthy balance with these energies, it works very well. It works very well. Your shadow aspect of self becomes like your best friend who knows all of your secrets, who knows like your subconscious so well. And this is an aspect of self that you want to keep as an ally and not turn into an enemy. Now, as I said before, originally the shadows are moving the same way. When you move, I move, just like that, right? So it's the same. We're all on the same page. But what happens after a while, after a certain point of getting caught up in illusion for so long and not acknowledging your relationship with this aspect of yourself, what happens is that there's this gap created between you and your shadow self. It's almost like the light is slowly disappearing and the shadows is slowly disappearing, and you get caught up in this illusion, or this false light of illusion, thinking that this is your only this is like your only reality. As your shadow is moving further and further away due to non-acknowledgement, right? It just gets further and further away. So as we started like this, light self, shadow self, we're all moving the same. The gap is created when this part of self that is caught up in the illusion is not checking in, is not turning around every now and then and looking at what is being held in that space. Is there anything that needs to be cleared here? Is there anything that needs to be confronted here? Are you good? Are you okay? The bags are not too heavy. You're good. So it's kind of like checking in on this part of yourself that is holding all of your baggage. So if you think about yourself traveling, think about your shadow self holding your bags for you, And your shadow self enjoys doing this because this is something that the shadow does. Okay, it's a lag behind. So yeah, sure, give it to me. I got it. I got the bags. Now, the thing is, it's like leaving your shadow behind with all of your bags, right? And not checking in. And after a while, the more you collect, whatever you want to call it, whether they're unwanted emotions and feelings and situations and traumas and so on, there's an automatic deposit that goes to your shadow self with all of this. All of the stuff that you don't want to deal with, it goes to your shadow. It deposits into your shadow. And after a while, shadow is just like, I thought we kind of was like here with each other, but I find, shadow's just like, hey, I find myself carrying all of these bags and it's actually getting too heavy for me. I'm actually hurting. I'm actually feeling your pain now while you're over there in illusionary land, totally disregarding what I am feeling. Now this part of yourself turns into a separate aspect of self that is now forming its own way to survive. Okay, so this is what we're talking about, creating entities, creating quote unquote demons or whatever we want to call these parts of self. They didn't start out that way. Okay, it kind of just, they've been forgotten about and taken for granted. It's like taking someone for granted, someone who always has your back, someone who's always making sure that you're good, that you're feeling good, but the reciprocity is not there. So you're not checking in on this person that is constantly taking your stuff. So after a while, when we move away from this part of ourselves, this part becomes a little resentful in the subconscious area of the mind, which is a reality within itself. So it becomes resentful. It starts to kind of look at you, right? It starts to see itself as different from you. and it starts to look at you or side eye you and say, hey, you don't have my best interest in mind. And I've always had your best interest in mind. So therefore, you know, things are going to have to change, because I don't want to carry this pain anymore. If we're not going to work together on this whole situation here. So what happens after a while is that when we talk about lagging, the further you lag, the further you move away from parts of yourself and leaving those doors open, leaving these feelings unacknowledged and not confronted through self-healing and constant maintenance of that, of clearing your energies. What happens is that there's always a time, there's always a pocket of time that allows this part of self to appear in your current. So I drew this. It's just basically like little rings or whatever. And we have, let's say this is where you are, of course, like in the center of yourself, you're in your current self, you're in your present time, consciously. Now think of these rings as parts of your subconscious mind. And the further you go back, the more shadowy it gets, right? So when we think about waves, things happen in ripples and waves. When you look at the ocean, you'll see those ripples and waves. You can look at them and see that there's a delay. So every now and then, due to certain just time in general, how time kind of operates, there's this opportunity where your lagged self or a shadow self will appear in your current timeline due to the waves. So what you have kind of left behind, this aspect of self shows up in your timeline and says, hey, and we can kind of go back again to the movie Us and seeing that. Shows up in your reality and says, hey, remember me? You kind of just left me behind. So whatever you got going on here, shadow comes in and says, I'm going to give you your bags back. How about that? So here, take your bag, take your pain, take your emotions, take your everything that you've suppressed. I don't want it anymore, because I've had to develop a way to kind of survive with your pain, which is shared pain. But one aspect of self is taking more of it than the other. So this part of you is perceived as an enemy now, because you're in your timeline nice and comfortable, but then there's this other part of you that says, well, I don't care what you have going on right now. I'm here, and here's your stuff. So deal with it. So then all the anxiety starts coming up for that person, all of this stuff that was once packed away so nice and neatly in the shadows or in the subconscious mind. These parts start to show up in your reality. And now you're kind of like forced to deal with them. They're no longer in the shadows. They become a part of the illusion and a part of your reality, which can send a person into, again, as I said before, into extreme psychosis if they're not recognizing these parts of themselves. So then the thing about shadow is that shadow, when it's kind of left on its own, right? We're talking about energy here. There's certain amount of pain and suppressions and stuff and hidden things that shadow can't really hold on to forever, because the capacity is kind of running out. So then it's kind of dispersed and split. And now you don't only have one shadow, you have now another shadow created by shadow. So now this shadow is created, and now this shadow starts collecting everything too. And then this shadow creates another shadow. So now you're creating this ripple of shadows, all carrying different points of pain, mostly pain. Again, anything that is not confronted emotionally is usually held and stored in this space, which is okay. But after a while, when it gets too heavy, there's the feedback loop. So what happens is when the ripples of shadows starts going back towards the present time, your conscious I am, when it starts coming back into that direction, what happens is that this person is hit with waves of self. It's no one else. It's not another person. It's not entities attacking you. It's none of that. These are aspects of yourself that are coming for you, but they're not coming to attack you. They're coming because the direction of the current is pointing that way, right? So then they're kind of like being dropped off into your timeline, and you're like, wait a second, I don't even recognize you because I don't see me in you. So if I don't see me in you, then I see an enemy. And now there's this war created within self. And I feel and I sense that this is happening now. These are what these energies are, these ripples, these lag behinds of shadows that are coming in waves. And they are affecting, those who are not really super aware. And they're affecting the current status of self. So this is when I was like going away, when I was, dealing with some of my stuff, I was really confronting these parts of myself, and really acknowledging certain things. And what we all acknowledged within ourselves is that we don't want to hold on to certain bags anymore. We all want to let go of these unwanted or unnecessary energies that no longer contribute to a favorable storyline that is in the best interest for all of us, all aspects of self. So what do we do with this? We transmute these energies. We confront, but we don't hold on, because it's kind of like a purging. So you purge, you cry, you get it out. But as you're doing that, there's a gathering of that energy that has to be, it has to go somewhere. It has to, so in doing that, it's not just about purging and letting go and expressing, but it's about, again, transmuting these energies, clearing and neutralizing these energies so that it's not causing an effect elsewhere in other people's space, the people that are around you, because some of your shadowy aspects that are holding heavy bags can come in and affect your loved ones. It's not their baggage. Why do they have to deal with all of the stuff that's incoming from, again, just delayed versions of yourself? So this is not easy work, because what I realized, and especially when we do some of our workshops together in the group and so on, what we realize is that we hold on to, we're comfortable when these stories reappear. There's a comfort to certain pains. There's a comfort to certain traumas that we hold on to. And we find, or we identify ourselves in these old stories that, again, serve no greater purpose at this point in time in your journey. So why are we still telling the same stories? And this is something that I had to check myself with. Why am I still telling these same stories? Why do I find comfort in this? Why do I constantly identify with these aspects of myself only, without allowing my strengths and my true power to really come in and regulate? Okay, so it's kind of like releasing all of, opening Pandora's box of all of these shadows, but not really having anything to, again, regulate or guide these aspects of self. Therefore, they come in and they sabotage everything that your current self, your I am, your focused, conscious self is working on or dealing with or trying to move forward with. There are these energies that are just like, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to look at me. You're going to pay attention to me. You're going to tell my story. And there's a part of you that is just like, well, I'm kind of over this story, but clearly I didn't deal with this part of self enough. So I need to deal with it right now. And this is like, again, a constant maintenance. And it gets easier when you start to just recognize these parts of you. And it's really seeing these parts of you as, first offering gratitude. Like, if you were to meet this version of yourself that has been holding on to all of your shit, you just kind of just say, thank you first of all, thank you for carrying all of that, because I don't think I would have made it to A, B, and C had you not been carrying this energy that I didn't want to deal with at the time. So thank you. So that's kind of like a first thing. And that kind of settles the energy in allowing you to have these inner conversations with yourself. You know, don't feel like you're going mental, or that, you know, you're suffering from multiple personality disorder. We all have multiple personalities inside. We are housing so many different archetypes that all want their time to shine, right? So it's up to you, the I am aware, super aware aspect of self that comes in to regulate these energies. And, you know, so that's very important. So there are some things that you may not like, you know, and you may not resonate with anymore, but it doesn't mean that it's not holding a pocket of space in your subconscious mind. So you need to deal with them when they show up. So it's not just dealing with these energies when they show up. Being proactive now that you're aware is now a different thing, because you can put yourself in a position to now go into quantum communication with all parts of yourself. Go into that quantum communication and just say, hey, there's this one communication with all of myselves that are out there, right, on different timelines and lags. And I want to communicate with these parts of myself that have been holding on to my pain, my traumas, my suppressions, my, you know, my hidden desires, even, like whatever, you know, you want to communicate on a quantum level with all of these aspects of yourself, and kind of in one shot, just deal with all of them. Just deal with all of them in one shot. Right? So deal with all of them, because some of them are heavier than others, and, you know, and they're waiting on their time. Now, another thing is, if you're not at the core of yourself, or if you're not really centered, you may be out there, like in that part of the ocean where the waves are like crashing over you, and you have no choice but to deal with the feedback. There's nothing to do but to deal and to confront. And sometimes you don't need to do that if you just get yourself back into a point where the ripples are calm. They're not crashing over you, right? So like when you get to like a shore, let's say like to the shore of a beach, what the big waves that were coming further out, they're smaller and smaller the closer and closer they get to the shore. So you want to put yourself quite literally in a shore place, in a place of being, of allowing yourself to not, or not putting yourself in a position to catch these crashing, overbearing waves of feedback. Sort of it's kind of like how the moon operates as well, with the frequencies emitted from the moon. It's just subconscious feedback, you know. So we're kind of like in full moon energies right now. So there's feedback. You're getting fed back what you poured in. So that subconscious realm is speaking at a very the subconscious, when the moon is full, that subconscious language or reality, it's kind of like more so of a dream state of self, is more heightened. So a lot of people, again, are still dealing with certain subconscious, just subconscious feedback, just coming in, and sometimes it feels disruptive. So I say this all to say that, you know, we're just at a point in time where it doesn't have to be as scary as you think, but the work is necessary. Your people are going to have to confront themselves. People are quarantined, they're at home, they're dealing with family, they're dealing with self, they're dealing with all kinds of things on top of the unseen. So there's this effect, there's this bird box effect, where it's just like, hey, are you going to look? Are you going to open your eyes and kind of confront the fears and all of the stuff? Or are you going to just try to keep your eyes closed and not look and just survive? And when you're surviving these energies, you're kind of just waiting for it to pass. But again, if you're not jumping in, being proactive and being the alchemist that you are and transmuting and redirecting energies, it's going to come back again at some point in time. So you can walk around covering your eyes all day and all night, and then you kind of make it. But at least beings like myself, which I'm sure there are a lot of you out there, I'm not just here to just make it. Coming into this next cycle, I'm not here to just make it. I'm not here to just walk around with my eyes closed, you know, with blind leading the blind. Like, I'm not here for that. My eyes are open. All of my eyes are open, and I'm dealing with what I need to deal with. And because I know what my power is, because I have restored that within myself, then I have the ability to completely transmute, transform, redirect, and actually start creating from the point of where I stand in awareness. I get to create my reality instead of reacting to it. So it's really kind of putting yourself in that position more so. And that's what we're dealing with when we're dealing with these ripple of time. So certain waves may feel more intense than others. It's kind of like if you can envision like a movie where someone's kind of like fighting their clones, right? So you're like fighting, oh my God, oh, okay. It's kind of like the Agent Smith, that scene, I don't know, I think it was the Matrix 3 or something like that, where he was fighting all of the agents. And it's basically all of it's a never ending fight. If you want to keep fighting these parts of yourself, the fight is never going to end. And eventually you're going to get exhausted and you're going to become consumed by these programs that you've created. You've created the programs. And we put way too much power into the hands of these external entities. In the hand that they play, like in our lives, like they don't have that much power, guys. They don't have that much power at all, you know. So when you start truly going into the point of self-accountability and saying, I can take care of this, and as I'm taking care of this, I'm not afraid of it, so therefore it's not a monster to me. This is just a part of me that got lost. It's not a monster. So this is what we're dealing with now. So for those of you who are hanging in there, I like to compare the shadow aspects of self to, let's say this is a shungite, right? And shungite, just like most black crystals, are known to absorb negative energies. Negative energies that are just, you know, too heavy for us to kind of deal with, right? So the crystal kind of takes it in. So we feel good. You know, people who are looking for like protection from negative energies and so on, they kind of get these black crystals, the tourmalines and such, and they wear them or they hold them so that the crystal absorbs the energy, right? The thing is, that's all nice. The ability is there, right? But these types of crystals, and think of yourself as this crystal, or a shadow, as a shadow version of yourself as this crystal. So in this, after a while, the crystal gets really packed with these energies that it's been absorbing for you on your on your behalf. It's been taking a lot of the beatings, a lot of the energies, right? So now after a while, the crystal becomes kind of like foggy or energetically toxic or energetically dirty. And if you're just constantly carrying around this crystal, after a while, if you're not cleansing it or cleansing yourself, because this is a representation of shadow self, if you're not cleansing this part of you or this crystal, it eventually is going to turn against you. It's going to bring forth toxic energy. So what was once your best ally for dealing with certain things or certain energies now becomes your greatest enemy that makes you sick, possibly brings forth this toxic waste of energy that has not been neutralized or transmuted or cleansed. So the way that this crystal operates, same way you got to constantly clean these types of crystals energetically, cleanse yourself in that way. energetically. Even if you have to just go into the shower or the bath, take a salt bath or do something to really kind of release these energies. And always keep this in mind when you're releasing or cleansing your energetic field. Always put yourself in the space of an alchemist who is transmuting the energies at the same time. What I realize, and when I speak to water, you know, and I expressed this when I did the video with Earth Keeper Selena, but the water cleanses, but just like anything else, whatever you're carrying and you're giving to the water is taking as it is. It's kind of like dumping garbage into the water, you know, but energetic garbage. So when we're cleansing, we want to make sure that we're also giving in the command, and like with your intention. That's all it takes. We want to give the command of transmutation and neutralization. So whether you are in a bath, a shower, a lake, a pond, the ocean, wherever you are cleansing within the waters, make sure that you are intentionally neutralizing energies, okay, at the same time. And this is what helps clear or create space for clean, regenerative energies that are able to now collaborate, like that you're able to collaborate with energetically. Same thing with just earth. You know, people say, hey, go touch a tree. And that's like the biggest therapy. You know, the tree will take all of your negativity and make you feel better. So you'll leave the tree smiling. You'll say, thank you, tree. Thank you for taking all of my stuff. But that tree, although, yes, there's a natural filter system, right, that we all have, but at the same time, when it's overloaded, we're talking about overloading. This is why we have earth keepers, because earth keepers are here to transmute and make sure that earth is not, or nature within itself is not constantly just dealing with the dump of everything, everyone dumping. Because then that dump it creates a feedback back to the habitats, like those who are in the space. So paying attention to not just the cycles, but even the cycles in the sense of energy returning. Don't just automatically think, oh, nature is self-cleansing, self-sustained, so nature is going to like just make my problems go away. That's not the case. There's a limit with that as well, and it is up to us to make sure that, again, we have a symbiotic relationship. Symbiotic. We're working together. Just like I said, the light body and the shadow working together. This is symbiosis here. This is not, hey, you're my doctor and I'm sick, so fix me. You know, that's not how we treat these essences of ourselves. So I hope this made sense somehow. I just felt the need to just really talk about the shadow in this way, and not looking at your shadows as enemies, not looking at these parts of you as something to be ashamed of. Shame, doubt, fear, all of those energies are very, very low on the pole of emotion, and very slow moving and very low vibrating, right? And if your mind has plans, right? If you have like other plans, but you're constantly allowing these undertones of fear, of doubt, of shame, of guilt to like support you, then these energies are going to contradict themselves, and you're not going to get the results that you are looking forward to. So this has just been a lot of the work that I've been working with just personally. And this is something that I wanted to present to you guys, just in case you've been really anxious within yourself, if you've been kind of like getting caught up in the illusions of things and feeling attacked. Because one thing that I recognize out there in spiritual conscious world on the internet is that a lot of people are like really scaring the crap out of people with certain levels of information. And that can get a little tricky because everyone is not necessarily ready to deal with certain parts of those truths, right? Because what lacks in some of those messages, right? I'm not, what lacks in certain messages is the self accountability part. Because you're just like, hey, I'm the good guy, and there's the enemy trying to attack me. So what do we need to do? They're also trying to polarize, and they're constantly trying to polarize us. We had another cop killing, and there's the race thing coming up again. And if you notice, every summer, when it's coming into summer, there's always something. If you, again, recognize the patterns. So we knew that this was coming regardless. So they have certain programs out there that are kind of acting as police, the pole ice, right? The bringing the polarities in to really, again, start separating people's consciousness. We're going to separate the consciousness again during a very sensitive time of loop feedback. Okay, and then this is where it gets all crazy. You start creating an enemy again, and you start getting caught up in that loop of separation again. And this is the goal for those who are pro polarity in that sense. Even in, for instance, you have the verses, right, with the music. You had like Teddy Riley and Babyface, and now there's like Erykah Badu and Jill Scott. There's this verses. They got like the boxing gloves on the ladies, like they're ready to go at it, right? You have that, and that's cool, like all in good fun. Like, I'm not here to like rain on anybody's parade with fun and healthy competition or anything like that. But keep that in mind, healthy competition, and realizing that you can go into these situations and say, I'm just here to enjoy the music. I like both of these ladies, and I really love both forms of how they express their art and music. So I'm not here to pick sides. I'm just here to enjoy the music. And this is a subconscious thing, guys. I'm not here, again, pick your favorite, whatever. But at the same time, if there's that subconscious sense of truth and knowing that everything is everything, so do I just want to enjoy it? Do I want to participate? Do I want to, what do I want to do in these energies? Not how is these energies positioned, for me so that I can react. No, how do I want to participate in this space? Even if it's a space of competition, how do I want to position myself here? And that's the power that you have, even in this duality, this world of, reality of duality and polarization. And that's where we start to get more into color. That's where we start to go beyond the black or white or this versus that. And we start to, hey, I'm feeling purple right now. Hey, I'm feeling red. Hey, I'm feeling green. Let's see what we can do with all of these colors right now in this space and how I'm feeling. And that's painting. That's art. That's creation. You are allowing yourself the space to dial into these frequencies that you are currently aligned with, and you are creating with these frequencies. You are creating with these colors. You're not choosing purple over green. You're using purple and green to create something unique. So this is the whole thing with just what we're getting into when we're coming into this new cycle. It's kind of like, I'm the creator of my own reality here. So I get to kind of just, do my thing with a keen sense of awareness here, and see what I'm able to create out of whatever it is that I have, whatever resources that I carry within myself. So yeah, it's just a realization that helps you rise above a lot of the stuff that's going on, just on a very basic level, that's keeping people apart from themselves, creating more and more and more shadows of unconfronted drama and trauma, you know? So just collect yourselves, quantumly communicate with yourself, and keep it moving. So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope this resonated. And again, enjoy your Mother's Day weekend. And I'll see you soon. Bye.